An ancient text, penned by a prophet in exile over 2.5 millennia ago, speaks of a scattered people, dispersed among the nations, who would one day be gathered from the four corners of the earth and returned to their ancestral homeland. It describes a valley of dry bones, a symbol of a nation seemingly lifeless and without hope, being miraculously brought back to life, flesh and sinew covering them, breath entering them, and standing up as a vast army. This isn't the opening of a fantasy novel. It is the powerful and deeply resonant prophecy of Ezekiel, a vision that has echoed through the centuries, shaping the destiny and fueling the dreams of a people bound by a covenant as old as civilization itself. Today, we are witnessing a phenomenon of historic and, for many, biblical proportions: the mass return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. This is not just a story about migration. It is the story of a prophecy unfolding before our very eyes, a testament to the enduring power of faith, identity, and the unbreakable bond between a people and their land. If you find this journey into history, prophecy, and the heart of a nation's return compelling, take a moment to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to continue bringing these incredible stories to light. The words of the prophet Ezekiel, particularly in chapters 36 and 37 of his book, form the very bedrock of this incredible story. Exiled in Babylon alongside his fellow Judeans in the 6th century BCE, Ezekiel delivered a message that was, at its core, one of profound hope amid utter desolation. The kingdom of Judah had been crushed. Jerusalem and its sacred temple lay in ruins, and the people were forcibly marched into a foreign land. Ezekiel saw something else. To the casual observer, he saw a future restoration that defied the logic of empires and the finality of conquest. He spoke of God's promise not for the sake of the people, who had faltered, but for the sanctification of his own name, which had been profaned among the nations where they were scattered. The prophecy details a twofold restoration: a physical return to the land and a spiritual renewal of the people. "For I will take you from among the nations, gather you out of all countries, and bring you into your own land," the text declares. This physical ingathering, known in Hebrew as kibbutz galuyot, is a cornerstone of Jewish eschatology. It is the literal return of exiles from every corner of the globe to the land promised to their ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This divine promise was not merely about reclaiming a territory. It was intrinsically linked to a profound spiritual transformation. Ezekiel prophesied that God would sprinkle clean water on the people, cleansing them from their impurities. He would give them a new heart and put a new spirit within them, removing the heart of stone and giving them a heart of flesh. This spiritual rebirth would lead to a renewed relationship with the divine, where the people would walk in God's statutes and keep his judgments. The vision of the Valley of Dry Bones in chapter 37 serves as a powerful allegory for this national resurrection. The bones represent the house of Israel in exile, dry, scattered, and devoid of hope, saying, "Our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off." But the prophecy shows these bones coming together, being covered with sinews, flesh, and skin, and finally receiving the breath of life, standing up as a great army. This was not just about political restoration. It was about the revitalization of a people's spirit, identity. For centuries, these words were a source of solace and a beacon of hope for Jewish communities scattered across the globe, from the ghettos of Europe to the bustling markets of the Middle East and the remote villages of Africa. They were recited in prayers, studied by sages, and passed down through generations, a constant reminder that their exile was not permanent and that a return was not just possible, but divinely ordained. The modern fulfillment of this ancient prophecy is a story woven through the fabric of the last century and a half, a process known as aliyah, a Hebrew word meaning to ascend or go up. This term is deeply significant, as it implies not just a physical move to Israel but a spiritual elevation. While individual Jews had always made the arduous pilgrimage to the Holy Land throughout the centuries of diaspora, the late 19th century witnessed the beginning of organized waves of immigration, driven by a complex mix of persecution, idealism, and the nascent Zionist movement. The first Aliyah, from 1882 to 1903, saw pioneers primarily from the Russian Empire and Romania, fleeing pogroms and systemic discrimination. They were not just refugees. They were idealists, dreaming of reclaiming and cultivating the land of their ancestors. They faced immense hardships, a desolate land, a harsh climate, disease, and the opposition of the Ottoman authorities. Yet, they laid the foundations for future Jewish settlement, establishing agricultural communities like Petah Tikva and Rishon LeZion. The second Aliyah, from 1904 to 1914, brought a new wave of immigrants, also mainly from the Russian Empire following another spate of brutal pogroms. These newcomers were deeply influenced by socialist and Zionist ideologies. They were young, energetic, and committed to the idea of building a new Jewish society based on labor and self-sufficiency. It was during this period that the first kibbutz, Degania Aleph, was established, and the city of Tel Aviv, the first modern all-Jewish city, was founded on the sand dunes north of Jaffa. These pioneers, known as Halutzim, drained swamps, planted forests, and built the infrastructure that would support a future state. They were the architects of the revival of the Hebrew language as a modern spoken tongue, a project championed by Eliezer ben Yehuda, transforming it from a language of prayer and scripture into the vibrant vernacular of a reborn nation. Each subsequent wave of Aliyah was propelled by different global events. The third and fourth Aliyahs in the 1920s brought more pioneers from Poland and Russia, further strengthening the Jewish presence, or Yishuv, in the
British
fifth Aliyah
Mandatory
in the
Palestine.
1930s was a desperate flight from the rising tide of Nazism in Germany and across Europe. These immigrants brought with them education, skills, and capital, contributing significantly to the urban and economic development of the Yishuv. The aftermath of the Holocaust, the Shoah, brought the most tragic and compelling chapter of the return. The survivors, the Sherit HaPleta, the surviving remnant, emerged from the concentration camps and forests of Europe, their families and communities utterly destroyed. For hundreds of thousands of them, the only place to go, the only place that offered a future, was the land of Israel. They braved treacherous seas and British blockades in rickety ships in what became known as Aliyah Bet, the illegal immigration. The images of these ships, crammed with survivors being intercepted and their passengers sent to internment camps in Cyprus, galvanized the world and fueled the final push for Jewish statehood. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 was the political realization of the 2,000-year-old dream. The new state immediately threw open its gates, enacting the law of return, a legal framework that grants any Jew, and in some cases their descendants, the right to come and live in Israel and gain citizenship. This law transformed the prophecy of Ezekiel from a distant hope into a state-sanctioned reality. What followed was a dramatic and unprecedented ingathering of exiles from every conceivable corner of the world, a living testament to the prophet's vision. Between 1948 and 1951, the Jewish population of Israel more than doubled as nearly 700,000 immigrants arrived. This included not just European survivors but also entire Jewish communities from the Arab world. Operation Magic Carpet, a clandestine airlift in 1949 to 1950, brought nearly 50,000 Jews from Yemen and Aden, a community that had lived in Arabia for millennia, who believed they were witnessing the fulfillment of the biblical prophecy
in a new
to be
world,
carried on
many
eagle's
having
wings.
never
Never seen an airplane before, clutching their Torah scrolls and ancient traditions. Shortly after, Operation Ezra and Nehemiah airlifted over 120,000 Jews from Iraq, bringing an end to a Jewish presence in Mesopotamia that dated back to the Babylonian exile itself, the very exile of Ezekiel. These communities, known as Mizrahi Jews, from the East, brought with them rich cultural traditions, music, cuisine, and deep-seated religious piety, forever changing the demographic and cultural landscape of the nascent state. The ingathering continued throughout the decades. The 1950s and 60s saw waves of immigration from North African countries like Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, and Libya, as well as from Iran and Turkey. Each community brought its unique customs and heritage, contributing to the vibrant and often challenging cultural mosaic of Israeli society. One of the most remarkable and dramatic chapters of this return is the story of Ethiopian Jewry, the Beta Israel community. Isolated for centuries from the rest of the Jewish world, they maintained a unique form of Judaism based on the Torah, without the later rabbinic developments of the Talmud. They dreamt of Jerusalem, a holy city they knew only from their sacred texts. In the late 20th century, facing civil war and famine in Ethiopia, the Israeli government launched a series of daring, covert operations to bring them home. Operation Moses in 1984 and Operation Solomon in 1991 were masterpieces of logistical and military planning. During Operation Solomon, in a period of just 36 hours, 35 Israeli aircraft, with seats removed to maximize capacity, airlifted over 14,000 Ethiopian Jews to Israel. The images of these people dressed in their traditional white robes, stepping onto the soil of Israel for the first time, was a powerful and moving sight, a modern-day exodus that seemed to leap directly from the pages of Scripture. The collapse of the Soviet Union in the late 1980s and early 1990s triggered the largest wave of Aliyah since the years following Israel's independence. Over 1 million Jews from Russia and the former Soviet republics seized the opportunity to leave a collapsing empire and decades of religious and cultural suppression. This massive influx brought a wealth of scientific, medical, and artistic talent that profoundly impacted Israel's economy, high-tech sector, and cultural life. Walk through cities like Ashdod or Bat Yam today, and you will hear Russian spoken as commonly as Hebrew. The story of this return is not just one of numbers and logistics. It is a story of immense personal sacrifice, cultural collision, and profound faith. Immigrants, or Olim Chadashim, newcomers, have had to navigate the immense challenges of learning a new language, finding work, and adapting to a society that is itself a dynamic and often chaotic work in progress. They face bureaucracy, cultural gaps, and the ongoing security challenges of the region. Yet they continue to come. They come from France, fleeing a rise in anti-Semitism, from Argentina, seeking economic stability, from the United States and Canada, driven by religious conviction and a desire to be part of the Jewish national project. This diverse tapestry of returnees has created a society in Israel that is unlike any other in the world. The customs and traditions they brought with them are now woven into the fabric of daily life. In the synagogues, one can hear prayers chanted in the distinctive melodies of Ashkenazi, Central and Eastern European, Sephardic, from Spain and the Iberian Peninsula, and Mizrahi traditions. The marketplace, the shuk, is a symphony of languages and a feast for the senses, where one can find Polish gefilte fish, Moroccan spicy salads, religious life itself, and reflects this diversity, sold side by side. The strict, black-hatted Haredi communities of Jerusalem's Mia Shirim, with customs rooted in pre-war European shtetls, exist alongside the vibrant musical traditions of Sephardic Jews and the unique religious practices of the Ethiopians. Holidays and life cycle events are celebrated with a rich variety of customs. At a Moroccan Jewish wedding, you might see the henna ceremony, a colorful prenuptial ritual. The food on the table will tell you where the family came from. Ashkenazim avoid rice and legumes, kitniot, while many Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews include them in their holiday meals. This process of kibbutz galuyot has not been without its difficulties. The melting pot ideal of the early state, which sought to create a new, singular Israeli identity, often suppressed the unique cultures of the incoming communities, leading to social tensions and inequalities that persist to this day. There have been struggles for recognition and resources among different ethnic groups. Yet the overwhelming narrative is one of resilience and integration. The children and grandchildren of these immigrants are Israelis, serving together in the army, studying in the same universities, and building a shared future, even as they preserve the traditions of their ancestors. For many religious Jews, both in Israel and in the diaspora, this ongoing return is nothing less than the Achalta de Gola, the beginning of the redemption. They see the revitalization of the land, the once barren hills now covered in forests, the deserts blooming with agriculture through Israeli innovation, as a direct fulfillment of Ezekiel's words. But you, O mountains of Israel, you shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people Israel, for they are about to come. They view the revival of the Hebrew language and the reestablishment of Jewish sovereignty in the land as clear signs of divine providence. The story is far from over. The ingathering continues, a dynamic and ongoing process. Communities of Bnei Menashe from northeastern India, who claim descent from one of the lost tribes, are slowly making their way to Israel. The Kaifeng Jews of China, a historic community that has all but assimilated, are seeing some of their descendants reconnect with their Jewish roots and make Aliyah. The prophecy of Ezekiel, once a distant dream whispered in exile, it is a complex, messy, and often pretentious reality, but it is undeniably the story of a people returning home. It is the sound of ancient Hebrew prayers echoing in the Judean hills, the sight of young soldiers from over 100 different countries defending their shared homeland, and the taste of 1,000 different cuisines in a Tel Aviv market. It is the story of dry bones coming to life, of a scattered people being gathered, and of an ancient promise being fulfilled in the crucible of modern history. This is not just a chapter in the history of the Jewish people. For those who see through the lens of faith, it is a chapter in the unfolding of a divine plan, a testament to the enduring power of a prophecy that has spanned empires, crossed continents, and brought a people back to the land that has forever been at the heart of their identity.